Mr. Steyer, at a caucus meeting last night, it sounded like you were criticizing Michael Bloomberg. Can you share that criticism with us here? And are you frustrated when people compare your candidacy with a potential Mike Bloomberg candidacy?
What I said last night, I hope, is that I think that if Michael Bloomberg wants to be the candidate, the representative of the Democratic Party in the presidential election in 2020, that he should embrace a wealth tax. That we have an unjust and extreme inequality in this country, that he's one of the people, and I'm another one who's benefited from all the opportunities in America, and that that anyone who doesn't recognize and want to rectify that deep inequity across our society isn't fit really to lead the Democrats. So I don't think I was criticizing him. I was saying you should please do what I've done, embrace a wealth tax, and understand that redressing that inequity is absolutely critical for the country.
Following up on that, what do you think about Duval Patrick's entrance as well? Do you feel like we need another candidate at this point?
The question was, what do I think about Duval Patrick? Look, my attitude on all this stuff has always been a multiplicity of voices is great. That what really matters is who's going to say something important and different, who's going to connect with voters, who can pull this party together. And so if Duval Patrick wants to get in, I listened to what he had to say. He knows that he's late. But if he has something important to say, then I say, let's listen to him.
This young lady has a question.
Wealth tax and repealed it.
Hang on.
So she has a question.
Loud. Do you have a plan for the homeless population?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. I'm aware, I live in California, so I know how big an issue homelessness is here in my home state. I also have seen it growing across this country. The plan we have to have is to build more units across society and to give people not just a roof over their head, but also a suite of support services for people who've been on the street. So it's part of a lack of housing society-wide that we have to address, which is a question of rules and resources. But beyond that, it's a question of support in a suite of things that will let people move into housing successfully.
Now, can you explain it like if I'm 11?
Excuse me?
Now, can you explain it like if I'm 11 years old?
Yes. Are you 11 years old?
Yes.
We need to build more houses so people have a place to stay. And we have to be able to give them health support so that when they move in there, they can live there successfully and be part of society again. So it's about building a house for them to live in and letting them feel good about themselves, and then they can leave that house during the day and go out and be productive.
Nice.
Is the question, do I support Prop 13 reform?
Yes.
Is the question about split roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Unequivocally.
Yes. Do you guys know it? I mean, do you know the issue? You want me to explain the issue to people?
I know the issue, but I don't.
I know the issue too.
Okay.
Basically, commercial office buildings pay their taxes based on valuations from years ago or decades ago. That means they're underpaying their taxes to the state of California, which means we don't have as much money as we need to invest in the citizens of California and rebuilding things like making sure that we take care of homelessness. So do I think that people should pay taxes on a fair basis that is based on reality? Yes, I do.
As a follow-up, what about Costa Hawkins? Would you support reform in that area?
So that is one I'd rather go more detailed into, and I'd rather wait till later.
Okay.
Mr. Steyer, CMAG data shows that in 2019, you've spent $46.4 million in television ads. How would you characterize that investment? Well spent?
Look, my belief about what's at stake here is everything. I mean, if you listen to what I was saying, I basically said I believe the natural world's at risk and that my number one priority would be climate change. From my standpoint, the question is, who has something to say that's important, that connects with Democratic primary voters? I have something that I believe I need to say, and I believe that that message will succeed or fail based on its values. But my question about how much do I care about this, I don't think there's a limit to how much I care about this.
The response to the...
Which progressive wing of the Democratic Party do you mostly connect with? Would it be Bernie or Warren?
I would like to think that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that I connect with most is the one that I represent. So when I ask, I mean, I have a lot of respect. I've said multiple times that I believe that every Democrat is far preferable on multiple vectors to Mr. Trump. And I will, if I'm not going to be the candidate, I will support whoever it is unequivocally. But I believe that I'm saying something differential from both of those senators with no disrespect. And I believe that what I'm saying is grounded in years of study, years of going around the country, years of talking to people, and the actual reality of the situation. That's what I believe in, and I believe.
So slightly more moderate than Bernie and Warren, would we say that?
I would say different. I would say I have a different take on what will work. I think we share the same goals in terms of justice and equality and growth, but I think I have a different take on what will actually accomplish that in the real world, and more than that, on the priorities of how we act. Look, I've said priority one's climate change. State of emergency on day one. I think that's different from everybody else. I think that's the real world, just to be clear.
Where do you stand on Bolivia? Where do you stand on Bolivia? Would you go as far as to call it a coup?
Look, there was obviously a breakdown in the political system in Bolivia. It's the end of years of dysfunction. And this, I think what you saw was a broken political system with people stepping in without, really being voted in, but also pushing somebody out who also hadn't really been voted in. So I think to use language that describes a different situation is inaccurate. What we see there is really political dysfunction on a grand scale after years of really struggling.
Do you think the United States should play a part as far as funding people in those coups?
Look, I think when it comes to situations like that, we should be working with our coalition partners around the world to try and provide support for the people of Bolivia. But do I believe that we should be going in the way that you suggest, unilaterally? That's not no. Oh my God.
Does Kamala Harris's decline in the polls create an opportunity for you in California to pick up delegates? People know you here. You've worked here a long time.
Carla, I don't know. And honestly, to me, the whole question here was what I said, which is, do I have something different from everybody else to say? Is it important and true? And do people trust me to actually make happen what they care about? I don't think that's directly related to Senator Harris. I don't think it's directly related to anybody else. It's a question of who is saying things that people believe and trust, and who do they think, also, let's be accurate, can beat Donald Trump. I'm not sure he's going to be their candidate, but at the moment I think most primary voters are assuming he will be. And if he is, I think people want to feel like whoever the Democrat is has got to be able to stand up to him, specifically economically, and take him down for the failure that he really is on the economy.
On climate, you undoubtedly have a pretty fleshed out plan on climate. I think in the past few administrations, though, there's been this concern that critical departments, the EPA, USDA, and other departments within multiple administrations have become a revolving door for industry lobbyists. And I'm wondering, in order to implement your plan, will you plan to not include representatives from the fossil fuel industry in your cabinet?
Yes, I will not include them in my cabinet. Yeah, no. Look, I'm running because I think these companies have bought the government. I'm not going to have them now run the government officially.
Thank you.
Going off of that, why not support the Green New Deal?
I do support the Green New Deal.
You do support the Green New
yes.
Deal, unequivocally.
Look, the Green New Deal is a broad platform for what we need to do. I support that broad platform. I have a much more granular program of what I think we actually need to do. In particular, I would declare a state of emergency on day one. I would not wait I would ask Congress to pass some version of the Green New Deal on day one, but they've gone 0 for 30 years in terms of passing things. So from my standpoint, if you actually look at the climate, you see this is a real-time state of emergency. That's what I declare. I wouldn't wait. I would ask Congress to pass, but we're not waiting. Day one, state of emergency, emergency powers of the presidency, number one goal of foreign policy. So do I support the Green New Deal? Yes.
Mr. Steyer, support the Green New Deal. If you support, Mr. Steyer, if you support the Green New Deal, why aren't you on with Medicare for all like Sanders? Why is yours different?
Look, everybody I think who's a Democrat running for president wants two things in terms of healthcare. Healthcare, affordable healthcare as a right for every American, and to use the buying power, the negotiating power of the federal government to drive down costs. There are two ways to do that, and people have been arguing about it from the very first debate and continued up to today. about whether that should be Medicare for all, where we scrap the existing system and put everybody on the government system, or if we leave the existing system of private insurance and let people everybody would be enrolled in Medicare, but the people can choose it who already have another choice. That's a public option. The reason that I'm for the public option is because I believe it does let us do the two things I'm talking about, make healthcare available to everybody and drive down costs, but it doesn't say to 160 million Americans, including millions, tens of millions of union workers who've negotiated to get their healthcare through their employment, that they have to do what the government says or they're breaking the law. If the public option is so great, they can go to their employer and say, give me the money you're spending on my healthcare, I'll buy the public option. But it's choice. It's still America. We don't scrap the existing system. We let people make their choice. And I also think you can see this system, it's not like we're just starting a healthcare system. We have one. We can build on that system and make it better and move towards that if people want that. If the public option is so cheap and so great, let everybody choose it and we'll get there because they chose it. But I don't like the idea of telling 160 million Americans, I know your healthcare better than you know your healthcare. I know your family better than you know your family. I know your life. You do it my way or you're breaking the law. Doesn't seem very fair.
Thank you, everyone. Quick question. What is your plan to ensure that police are held accountable for acts of brutality?
So, we've seen injustice across the criminal justice system. And in particular, we've seen policing we've seen it on our cameras, has been unjust. So when we think about it, there's a number of things we can do to prevent it in the future that involve resources, training, more community-based policing, specifically making sure that happens, but also oversight, that the Justice Department can make sure that the police treat communities fairly, and we know that there's been a racial bias in this. So there's a whole bunch of things we can do in terms of resources, attention, training, and specifically community-based policing. But in addition, we can hold people accountable to make sure that when they're doing the wrong thing, they don't get away with it.
Thank you, everyone.
It's a treat. Thank you, guys. It's wonderful.
This week, you're making your second appearance on the debate stage. What do you hope that viewers will take from your appearance there, and what are you hoping to get out of it?
Look, I think the first debate, I just wanted to introduce myself to millions of people who'd never met me, never heard of me, didn't know my name. I think in this case, I'd like to more clearly define how I'm different from the other people on the stage. Because I think I have a different background. I think I'm saying different things. I think I have different priorities. I want to make sure that people understand those because I think they're really important and I believe that they're the right thing for America. Thank you, guys.